Williamsburg, one thing I want you to be sure to see in this show are not only these animals out here, but in the small road, there's a video called Safari. And the video is based on an American cockroach who was loosened into a jungle setting. The artist herself invented the jungle setting in her studio. And she raised 20 different insects who were all players in this, and there's good music. So I actually was a professor of art history for 30 years. And modern and contemporary art, which when I started was unusual. You know, not many people, not many art historians considered anything past like 1950 is worthy of exploration. But I ran a program on contemporary art from Jerome University, where I was teaching all those years, into New York every semester in the fall. And we went to artist studios, went to the museums and the galleries. And part of it was that I, in a sense, curated shows because I had a seminar on campus, and I would do some basic style things, but also I would do something like multiculturalism or gender and sex. I have to say that was one of the very popular ones. And then nature and the cosmos. All right, so what I did is we also, when I was at the university, we also curated shows for our university gallery as part of our teaching. So as I was culminating this teaching round, I started to really curate shows that were thematic. The animals have been part of a personal commitment of mine, and I'll explain a little bit about the show in that I've tracked this as we were going to the galleries, and in the 1990s, really mostly what I saw of animal imagery were animals that were being abused and used and were there for humorous reasons. And this is avant-garde art. You know, there's always that domestic, sentimental animal art, but this is high-end. And all of a sudden, around in the early 2000s, some very strong imagery appeared. It's as though the connection with our fellow creatures was being made. And I was part of a seminar on art and science, and met a number of artists, talked at length with Jan Harrison, who did the big cat that's there at the end of the room. And she consulted with me, and we started to gather together some of the contemporary artists doing this deep, responsive imagery. You know, and what's different about it, I'm talking to her and some other people and saying, well, here's this contemporary art. Not only is there a lot of imagery, but the animals are different. And being an art historian, I knew the whole history of art, and in most of the history of art, the animals there do not look at us. You know, they are not there as their very own powerful being. They're mostly there for human use or admiration. I found out about this. I had, for instance, one artist I'd heard on a UN panel on art and the environment. Others I've seen knew, like, and that was Catherine Chalmers. Others I've seen, like Sue Coe, who have been involved in a very vivid protest art, but also did deep connection art. This show is the deep connection, you know, and I meant it not to be political, but rather personal. But personal with that underlying recognition of the state of our relationship to our fellow creatures, which is very problematic as in the last generation. And with most of the artists that they're not only musing about this conceptually, but they've really lived with the animals and connected with them. Jillian Jagger there has for years had horses and lives in the country on a farm and has this one-to-one relationship. Jess Wallace was a jockey in England, and she, as a young woman, was a jockey. She now does very vivid felt experiences of that very horse being. Jillian Jagger also is the cow here and the cow's eye. Jan Harrison, who I talked about, she not only connects with primates and felines, but she herself is cat, meaning that one of the things she does is do cat speaks, cat animal sounds that just simply come out of her. So the big cat here, which is mountain lion with foliage fur. Yeah. None of these are simply descriptive. Each one connects in depth with a kind of strangeness and vividness of being. And the eyes are part of what carry that. And you can see that in the big cat. But foliage fur, you know, that it is in and within nature, and yet it is a kind of being that is beyond that. There's something very hyper present about it. You know, the domestic animal here, this white cow. Interesting to see the domestic animals you can approach more closely, whereas the wild animals were at a distance. So this, I think it was Da Vinci who said the eyes are the windows of the soul, and that's what we have more closely with the white cow. And you can see with the white cow, we don't even have the shape of its head. We have its full whiteness and the swirls of its beautiful coat that become an expressive sense. And the nuzzle, I like this because it's almost like you could, you know, stroke the softness of this nuzzle. And the eyes then are very very close to us. You know, by contrast, I do want to show you this. Jan Harrison also did this. I am happy with teeth and claws. You know, when I said she is cat, she recognizes the way we in our own physical being resonate with other creatures. And so, you know, I just have a new Maine Coon cat, and this makes me think of it because he's a domestic cat, but he's wild. And that's what she's got in this. So, I was talking about how the artists experience the animals, always direct. Eva van Rijn went on safari in Africa, so she took pictures and then did works. This is called Brand New, so she's showing us a new zebra. Left and right of that, the cheetah and the wildebeest are by Mary Frank, who's one of the most internal artists I know. She didn't go to Africa, she went to the Bronx Zoo. But the thing about her image is like this, it's called Running, this cheetah. It's like the being, the very inner being of the animal. You know, she's able to resonate with that kind of inner activity, even the unconscious of the animal. Suko, this is called Lower and Higher Primates. And she has here an ape. And when you look closely, and you get, you know, you're very close, if you're almost in its face, the two eyes are different. And reflected in the one eye here are two humans holding another ape. So who is the lower and who's the higher primate? You know, her title asks the question, and hers is a kind of heart-suffering experience with the animals. And she has been one of the most poignant, and I would say has had a very broad effect. She's done a whole series on slaughterhouses for the animals we eat. And when you see it, you know that this is wrong and being done wrong and living wrong. These are all genetically altered mice in a laboratory. She went to a laboratory and then she photographed them. So there's a blind mouse in the middle, and there's a mouse with a curly tail, which is like an animal. There's one she calls obese rat.
Yeah.
And there's one that has Down syndrome. Yeah, right. I think it has. So the show is all the animals look back at us on curator pushes this work. So that's a little documentation today. So I believe it's like way up in the Catskills.
Good Lord.
So she grows all these plants and, you know, makes the ponds and the rain and everything. So here's our guy having landed because she pushed him in the water to go through and come out of the mist.
So what did she Is he cleaning his antenna? Why did she
Say it.
take that thing?
She either did it in her New York apartment or up in Preston Hollow is the name of the little town upstate. I haven't been to the New York, which is why I haven't seen. I've been to Preston Hollow because I live up Woodstock and she wanted me to pick up the works there. Another that's like a jellyfish. This is called coral. I think that may be the crab. That or that one, I'm not sure which.
That's amazing.
And so it's interesting that even a microorganism looks like the larger creatures. These plankton, all these different species are taking in that oil and the chemical dispersants. They are then going to be eaten by small fish. The small fish will be eaten by larger fish. We will eat the larger fish and everyone's going to get sick. So the Gulf of Mexico, although everyone says it's fine, is not fine. And this is the fallout of one of the natural, human-made disasters. The thing I like about Christy Rupp is the artist's name, is that these are also extraordinarily beautiful. And she's constructed these all with metal and a kind of tissue-thin cloth and encaustic wax. Christy Rupp, R-U-P-P, she's the one who's made this, also with an armature and paper and paint. And the tobacco hornworm caterpillar is a voracious eater of the foliage of tobacco, so I'm sure there are a lot of pesticides used in order to hold it down, and tomatoes. It's also, however, a creature that is used for scientific research because all of its internal organs are available for use. So it's one of those things that, when you have something that destroys part of the environment, it also plays an environmental role in terms of balance. And it also has a kind of human connection or usefulness. But the thing about this is it's also gorgeous. It's green. And it's interesting that, this is an aside, but Catherine Chalmers did a series called Food Cycle. And she starts out with the green tobacco hornworm caterpillars eating tomatoes, It's not a video. It's a series of photographs. That's the one in the catalog.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Oh, we did an insert for the catalog, notice, of two of the artists who had not been enrolled yet in January when I did it. Yeah, and that was, they're not in alphabetical order here because it visually didn't make sense. So there it is. There's that, caterpillar eating a tomato, but what she did was she got through she got the larvae, which would be the small nascent versions of it, and raise them, and then they voraciously eat these tomatoes. This is the least gory of the pictures in there. And then she has a praying mantis bite into one, and all the tomato spits out of it, which is like, hello. And then she wants to know what to do about the praying mantis. At first she thought she'd have a spider do it in. Got too complicated, didn't work, the pairing by mom. So she went out and got a frog, and she said in 2 hours the praying mantis was gone. So, you know, she's quite something.